After spending a lifetime with my husband, I was reborn in my college days. I excitedly ran to find my husband and saw him confessing his feelings to the campus beauty under the dormitory building. Missing you would be the biggest regret of my life. 1. Gu Qiao. You've been standing in front of the mirror for at least half an hour. What are you doing? Of course, admiring my beauty. I was mesmerized by the reflection in the mirror, a slim and slender girl, with a tiny waist, long legs, fair skin, and not a single wrinkle on her face. Is this really what I looked like at 18? Youth is truly wonderful, stop being vain. It's bustling downstairs. Jiang Qin is holding flowers at the door, waiting to confess to someone. My roommate, Dai Na, came in with a cup of milk tea, excitedly sharing the gossip with me. Jiang Chen, I slapped my forehead, having been so caught up in admiring my youthful and beautiful body that I had completely forgotten about my husband. I casually threw on a coat and hurriedly ran towards the dormitory building downstairs. Jiang Chen must have been reborn with me, with a younger body. His mindset is younger too. He even knows to bring me flowers now. The last time he gave me flowers was the year our child was born. The only time he ever gave me flowers, thanking me for continuing his family's lineage. Thinking of our child, I touched my flat stomach. I even have abs now. My dear child, let mom enjoy a few more years of happiness. Let me savor a few more years of youth before I bring you into the world. Jiang Chan and I were college sweethearts, making our way from university to the marriage altar. We argued, broke up, and made up. We've been poor, strived together, became wealthy, and even went bankrupt during our poorest days. We lived in a basement, surviving on plain water and white buns, and when cravings hit hard, we splurged on a packet of pickles. When we were wealthy, we bought a villa, and Jiang Chen even bought apartments for his parents and siblings. We supported each other through thick and thin, hand in hand, completing a lifetime together. In our past life, we were so busy starting businesses and making money that by the time we reached old age, we realized we had been too focused on work and hadn't truly lived or seen the world. Given another chance, we would definitely travel more and accomplish all those things we wanted to do but didn't have the time or energy for. 2. Jiang Chen stood at the dormitory entrance holding a bouquet of flowers, likely nervous, his hand resting on his pants with his middle finger continuously picking at the seam. I chuckled. In our graduation year, we started an e-commerce company together. Jiang Chen was introverted and quiet, not good at socializing, and a bit socially anxious for business. He had to learn to exchange pleasantries with people, a habit he picked up back then. Great, Jiang Chen was reborn with me. Gu Qiao, what are you looking at? My roommate and best friend, Zhou Xiaoxi, poked my arm, also curious to look outside. Just then, Jiang Chen turned his head, sunlight casting on his youthful and handsome face, his eyes shimmering with specks of gold. Seeing me, he shyly pressed his lips together into a smile, revealing 2 shallow dimples. Jiang Chen at 18 always made my heart flutter. He approached me with the flowers, just like in our past life, his every step matching a lifetime together. I took a deep breath and opened my arms, ready to embrace my happiness once again. Zhou Xiaoxi, I've liked you for a long time. Missing you would be the biggest regret of my life. Would you give me a chance to be my girlfriend? Zhou Xiaoxi was clearly flustered. She blushed, looking around as many onlooking students started to chant, say yes, say yes, say yes. I numbly withdrew my hands, only then realizing that Jiang Chen was passionately gazing at Zhou Xiaoxi. His gaze was straightforward and fervent. Amidst the bustling world, his eyes only saw Zhou Xiaoxi. I stood beside Zhou Xiaoxi, feeling like a mere backdrop, unnoticed by Jiang Chen, who didn't even spare a glance in my direction. So, Jiang Chen, who has been my husband for a lifetime, has he always harbored feelings for Zhou Xiaoxi instead? I staggered back 2 steps as memories from a previous life flooded my mind. It had rained lightly that day as I rushed out to collect a parcel. Zhou Xiaoxi mentioned she had left my umbrella at the library and insisted on lending me her jacket and hat instead, claiming they were waterproof and would prevent a cold in the chilly weather. Hurriedly I wore her clothes and dashed outside, only to bump into Jiang Chen the moment I exited the dormitory. He grabbed my arm, his head bowed, and confessed, I like you, be my girlfriend. I had been fond of Jiang Chen for a long time, having fallen for him since the start of the school term. The boy I had a secret crush on confessed his feelings in the rain. That was when I began to love rainy days. No wonder, after we got together, Jiang Chen rarely initiated messages or asked me out. I thought he was just reserved and not fond of being overly sentimental. Most importantly, I was completely dazed by this unexpected blessing. Blinded by passionate love, I threw myself wholeheartedly into the relationship. How ironic, maybe Jiang Chen initially mistook me for Zhou Xiaoxi. That's why, after his rebirth, his first priority was to start over with Zhou Xiaoxi. A lifetime together couldn't outweigh the perpetual beloved in his heart. I took a step back, then another. Jiang Chen anxiously awaited Zhou Xiaoxi's response, his forehead beaded with sweat from excitement, one drop trickling over his eyebrow into his eye. Yet He kept his eyes wide open, fearful of missing her reply by even a blink. My heart felt as heavy as if it were weighed down, as though I had swallowed a chunk of ice in the bitter cold. How rare, even when we went to meet important clients in our previous life, Jiang Qin was never this nervous. When I was giving birth, his parents insisted on a natural delivery, arguing that a cesarean wasn't good for the child, but our baby was well nourished, and the doctor estimated he weighed over 7 pounds. Recommending a cesarean, pale-faced, I lay on the bed clutching Jiang Chen's hand, asking if he was nervous about the birth. He casually remarked, "Modern medicine is advanced, don't worry unnecessarily," and then he went off to play video games. I was furious then, yet after the surgery, he brought me a bouquet of flowers. That's just how Jiang Chen is, a slap followed by a sweetener. He wasn't nervous about childbirth, meeting clients, our son's college entrance exams, nor about getting a daughter-in-law, but this confession, across 2 lifetimes, why was he so nervous now? I looked intently at Jiang Chen, the man I had loved all my life. His features overlapped with the shadows in my memory, shattering the beautiful dream I had lived. Stay together, stay together, stay together. The world around was noisy and chaotic. The sounds seemed distant and then close, and the figures before me overlapped. I pinched my palm. I felt like I might be suffering from heat stroke. I need to think it over. Facing the jeering crowd, Zhou Xiaoxi looked panicked. She glanced around the crowd and finally cast a pleading look at me. At that moment, Jiang Chen finally noticed me. He walked over briskly with flowers and firmly squeezed my arm. "Gu Qiao, this is wonderful. Are you here too? You're the closest to Zhou Xiaoxi. Please, persuade her for me. I've really liked her for many years now. I promise I'll treat her very well in the future. Please, help me." Too. The dazzling sunset bathed Jiang Qin in a soft golden light. I looked at his partly illuminated face against the light, and my memories took me back to the year we started our business. By the time we finished work at the company, it was already midnight, and there were no buses or subways running. Taking a taxi was out of the question since it was too expensive, and our home was quite far from the company. A taxi fare of over 30 yuan could cover both of our daily expenses. The winter streets were so cold that our toes numbed, but as I walked with Jiang Chen, breathing out misty air, I felt an unstoppable joy in my heart. Life was tough, but I was not alone. Having the person I loved by my side made the future look promising and bright. Jiang Chen rarely took the initiative, but this time he held my hand and thanked me for being willing to endure hardships with him, promising a better life ahead. He said he loved me. 3. This is between the two of us. Why put Gu Qiao in a difficult position? Zhou Xiaoxi's crisp voice rang out as she walked up and took my arm, lifting her chin gracefully towards Jiang Chen. "I need to think about this. You go back first. Let's go, Gu Qiao. Let's go have dinner." After saying this, Zhou Xiaoxi, leaving a dejected Jiang Chen behind, pulled me away. 4. Come back to reality. Zhou Xiaoxi waved her hand in front of me. "Your noodles are going to get mushy. You look so preoccupied. What's on your mind?" Chewing on my chopsticks, my emotions were mixed. "Don't you accept Jiang Chen?" I asked cautiously, then felt foolish. Having been reincarnated back to our college days, Jiang Chen and I were both free. Legally, he owed me nothing, and the promises of the past life were just that, a past. Now, we were neither spouses nor lovers. He indeed had every right to pursue happiness anew. Hey, just because he says something, doesn't mean I have to agree. What would that make me? Men, they only treasure what they can't easily have. Let's leave him hanging for a couple of days and see how he behaves. Zhou Xiaoxi spoke nonchalantly. Used to the attention from many boys, Jiang Chen, despite his graceful looks, was not exactly a world-class handsome guy. I took a sip of my noodle soup, trying to suppress the sour feeling inside, and couldn't help but feel a bit envious of Zhou Xiaoxi. Zhou Xiaoxi's parents were well off, her father owned a company, and her mother was a civil servant. Unlike Jiang Chen and me who came from the countryside, Zhou Xiaoxi had the confidence and pride of a city kid. What I longed for but couldn't have, to her, was just commonplace. 5. Jiang Chen wasn't brought down by Zhou Xiaoxi's rejection, having lived a lifetime once already. His mental resilience had greatly improved. He started showing up daily at our dormitory, diligently bringing Zhou Xiaoxi various gifts, flowers, milk tea, snacks, fried chicken. Our dorm mates, having eaten his gifts, began to tease Zhou Xiaoxi, from initial sadness and anger to resignation. My mindset also quickly stabilized. Jiang Chen hadn't even considered that I might have reincarnated too, looking at me as if I were a stranger, and even blocked me to avoid misunderstanding with Zhou Xiaoxi. 60 years of shared life, wasn't there any familial love if not romantic love? Only then did I realize how terribly wrong I had been. I had loved Jiang Chen all my life, whereas he, perhaps, had just endured me. In our youth, we were together because of a misunderstanding. He was too shy to break up with me because of his thin skin. As time went on, I ended up helping him so much that I even paid for my own dowry when we got married. He felt indebted and found it even harder to speak up for me. This long life was like a beautiful fairy tale. For Jiang Chen, however, it was a suffocating cage. He didn't love me, but he couldn't leave me either. Now that he has finally escaped from the cage, why would he want to get involved with me again? Xiao Shi, are you really not considering accepting Jiang Chen? Dana asked, nibbling on the braised chicken feet Jiang Chen bought, her eyes twinkling with the light of gossip. Zhou Xiaoxi was applying a face mask and spoke in a hushed voice as if squeezing the words from her throat. What are you talking about? The Red Army's long march was still 25,000 miles long, of course. I must thoroughly test a man. I was deeply engrossed in my book when a sudden thought struck me. Where does Jiang Chen get all this money to buy so many things? Oh, damn, it suddenly dawned on me, our class has an annual high-value scholarship, which awards the recipient 10,000 yuan each year, and I've been letting Jiang Chen have that spot. Both of us came from poor rural families, but my grades have always been better than Jiang Chen's, and my family's financial situation was even worse. The counselor even specifically told me that I was the most suitable candidate for the scholarship, but thinking of Jiang Chen's perpetually faded genes, I decided to give the spot to him and chose to do part-time jobs to support myself. Now I just want to slap myself hard. The scholarship money was just distributed, and there Jiang Chen was, flush with money, and he's using it all to chase after Zhou Xiaoxi. Fuming, I stood up abruptly and snatched the box of chicken feet from Dana's hands. I want some too. Dana jumped in surprise. What's the matter? Are you that hungry? Eat, eat, eat. It's all yours? Oh, right, Gu Qiao. Did you hear about the new Alumni Association scholarship the school is offering? I smacked my thigh as I gnawed on the chicken feet, realizing I had forgotten about it. There's a senior from our department who graduated 2 years ago, Pei Ning, who had a successful startup. I heard he raised several hundred million just in funding. He recently collaborated with our school on a project and on a whim decided to sponsor 2 students from our department. One spot went to someone from the class next door, and the other, naturally, went to Jiang Chen, because I gave it to him. Unlike the school's scholarship, the one from Pei Ning covers all university tuition and living expenses for 4 years, which later became Jiang Chen's startup capital. After graduation, I spat out the chicken feet and rushed to the counselor's office. In my past life, I had told the counselor I was withdrawing from the competition, but this time, I couldn't miss the opportunity. Breathless, I reached the counselor's office and leaned against the door, gasping for air. Inside, a tall figure stood with his back to me, indistinct against the light, but his voice was a familiar, cold tone. Teacher, Gu Qiao has already given up this spot. Please give it to me. Wait, I panted, wishing my glare could kill Jiang Chen. Wait a minute, teacher. I want to compete for this spot again. The counselor brightened up upon seeing me. Oh, Gu Qiao, you've finally come around. It's right for you to focus more on your studies instead of working all the time. With your talent, you should really be concentrating on your academics. Jiang Chen looked at me incredulously, clearly surprised by my behavior. Gu Qiao, you've always refused scholarships, haven't you? Seeing Jiang Chen so close, my heart involuntarily clenched. Gu Qiao, I really need this money. Could you let me have this opportunity? Jiang Chen lowered his head and gazed at me intently, her beautiful eyes cast downward, a hint of pleading in her expression. I could never resist Jiang Chen when he looked at me like that. Whenever he made that face, I would have moved heaven and earth for him, even plucking the moon from the sky if he asked. Gu Qiao, can you help me out, please? These words felt so familiar, repeated countless times throughout our long yet fleeting lives together. Gu Qiao, my younger brother is grown up now. He wants to get married. You're his sister-in-law. You wouldn't want to see him stay single forever, right? Gu Qiao, my sister is getting married, but her fiancé isn't well off. Could you buy her a house so she can hold her head high at her in-laws' place? Gu Qiao, our parents are getting old. I want to move them in with us so we can take better care of them. Amidst constant praises of Gu Qiao, you're the best. I kept giving in, kept compromising, until I became the weakest member of the Gu family. Due to overworking and pushing myself too hard, I ended up with gastritis, herniated lumbar discs, cervical spondylosis, and shoulder periarthritis. Jiang Chen, you shouldn't say things like that. Gu Qiao has given up her scholarship opportunities for you these past 2 years. Her grades and overall evaluations are much higher than yours, and her family isn't well off. Her parents didn't want her to continue her education, preferring her to get married instead. She's been working part-time to pay for her own tuition and living expenses. As a fellow student, you should think beyond just yourself. Gu Qiao is more deserving of this scholarship in every respect. Our teacher glared at me disapprovingly, trying to silence me with a stern look. In my past life, I married Jiang Chen in his rural hometown. Our teacher took a day-long train ride just to give me a generous red envelope at the wedding. On that day, she held my hand, her eyes brimming with tears. Gu Qiao, you need to learn to love yourself. It took me 2 lifetimes to truly understand the meaning of her words. In my previous life, Jiang Chen was the brightest light in my dim world, my salvation and my hope. In this life, I am determined to be my own light. Having left the office deep in thought, Jiang Chen looked at me again and again. He scrutinized me with furrowed brows, his gaze inquisitive and frankly quite rude. Unable to tolerate it any longer, I turned around. What are you looking at? Why did you suddenly change your mind? Jiang Chen asked tentatively. I found it somewhat amusing, since you so easily dismissed our past life and decided to start over. Naturally I couldn't keep indulging and helping you as before, because I'm poor. Jiang Chen blinked, his expression somewhat bewildered. I never complained about my hardships in front of him, no matter the situation. I always managed to smile and insisted I was fine. Clearly, my behavior was vastly different from before my rebirth. Xiao Bao, you're here. Where's Xiao Bao? I looked around, meeting Jiang Chen's expectant gaze. Gu Qiao, you've been reborn too. I neither confirmed nor denied it, simply giving Jiang Chen a deep look before striding forward. Hey, Gu Qiao, why are you upset? Since that's the case, let's just lay everything out on the table. My demeanor frustrated Jiang Chen, as I had pampered him all his life and he was unaccustomed to such coldness from me. Jiang Chen and I sat on a bench by the school lake, the sunlight casting a fine layer of gold leaf upon the water's surface. The scenery was beautiful, but I had no heart to appreciate it. Because Jiang Chen said that the happiness of my last life was something I had stolen, I've been tolerant of you for a lifetime and have paid for my own mistakes. What's wrong with pursuing the person I love in this lifetime? Jiang Chen was clearly agitated as he glared at me, his neck stiff with anger, as if I were the root cause of all his misfortunes. I laughed out of frustration. Jiang Chen, if you didn't like me, why didn't you say so from the beginning? You didn't say it in college, you didn't mention it when we were about to get married, you never brought it up in all these years. I didn't force you at gunpoint to marry me, did I? Jiang Chen grew even angrier. It's all your fault. Right after I confessed, you immediately told your roommate, and Dana, with her big mouth, announced it in the class group, saying I should treat everyone. If I broke up with you right then, what would our classmates think after we got together? Everyone kept saying how good you were to me, as if I'd be branded a heartbreaker the moment I left you. Gu Qiao, it's all because of you. You put me on this moral high ground, coercing me for a lifetime with conscience and morality. In my memory, Jiang Chen was handsome, his pale skin and distinct features making him shine brightly. He was the most attractive person I'd ever seen, whether as a youth, an adult, or an old man. Squinting, I scrutinized Jiang Chen's face inch by inch and for the first time noticed that his skin, although fair, was slightly dull, and he had 2 pimples on his chin. His nose was high but a bit too broad, making him look less refined. The shining Jiang Chen was, after all, just a slightly more delicate-looking ordinary student. His glow came from my love, not from himself. Since that's the case, let's pretend we never knew each other in this life and never contact each other again. Goodbye. I stood up, turned, and walked away, feeling something inside me collapse into ruins. I came from a rural family that greatly favored boys over girls, where my parents saw having a daughter as a significant loss, trying everything to recoup their investment through me. In middle school, my parents repeatedly said that as soon as I graduated from junior high, I would start working. To escape the fate of working in a factory, I studied hard and eventually topped my city's exams to get into a prestigious school. The school waived all my fees and even promised me a scholarship. The village chief and local leaders also visited several times, urging my parents to let me continue my education. After high school, my parents agreed I could attend university, but I had to send home 2,000 yuan every month. I agreed without hesitation and then found an excuse to transfer my household registration to the school. After moving my registration, I blocked all contact with my parents. They had never traveled far in their lives and, due to their lack of concern, didn't know my specific major or class. With the help of the village chief, I finally freed myself from my parents during my university years. I became someone without a family, so I desperately longed for a home, for love. In my past life, I clung to Jiang Chen like a drowning person grasping at a log. I so yearned for a home that even when Jiang Chen was not always kind to me, it was still 100 times better than my parents. In that rural home, I didn't even have a room of my own. My bed was in a corner of the living room, devoid of privacy and dignity. I saw Jiang Chen as my salvation. Any kindness he showed, I was ready to repay with my life. Now I realize that I shouldn't seek love from others. I should learn to love myself. No one but yourself can be your savior. I ran forward with large strides, leaving all my past and darkness behind. I eventually received the scholarship. My counselor mentioned that Pei Ning, the alumnus who provided the scholarship, wanted to meet me. Is it him? It turned out to be him. I stared in astonishment at the familiar man in front of me. He was one of our company's investors who injected funds to save us after our company went bankrupt. After I married Jiang Chen, he disappeared from our world. I didn't expect to see him again and couldn't help feeling excited. Hello, Senior Pei. Thank you, Senior Pei. My serious bow made him laugh. Please, have a seat. Meeting Pei Ning was delightful, and we even exchanged contact information. He mentioned that I could reach out to him if I faced any difficulties in life. Elated, I walked back to my dorm, believing in repaying kindness with even greater kindness. Pei Ning had helped me tremendously in his previous life, and he remains a benefactor in this life. I've spent a lifetime in e-commerce, and now, as it's just beginning to bloom, Pei Ning's company hasn't yet set up an e-commerce team. I could help him with this, considering it a repayment of his kindness, feeling cheerful. I generously bought a bag of fruits and snacks to treat my roommates. Upon returning to the dorm, I found 2 large bags of KFC on Zhou Xiaoxi's desk. Seeing me, Zhou Xiaoxi handed me a burger and 2 egg tarts. Here, you haven't had lunch, right? Eat them while they're hot. Dana teased from the side. Go on, eat. This is the Joy burger. I blinked in confusion. What burger? Oh, Xiaoxi is now with Jiang Chen. Zhou Xiaoxi rolled her eyes at Dana. Eat up. Even a chicken leg can't shut you up. I was surprised to look at Zhou Xiaoxi. She was with Jiang Chen. Zhou Xiaoxi glanced at me awkwardly. Living in the same dorm, virtually spending 24 hours together, I could hide my feelings for Jiang Chen from others, but not from Zhou Xiaoxi, who slept across from me. The 2 hardest things to hide in this world are coughing and love. Zhou Xiaoxi adjusted her hair and gave an awkward smile. Gu Qiao, you don't mind, right? I gave a genuinely sincere smile. What are you talking about? Of course, I don't mind, we're friends, that's what matters. The past is dark and irretrievable, but the road ahead is bright and brilliant. Jiang Chen is just part of the past now. I only want to focus on studying hard and earning money. Dinner was with the past. Jiang Chen invited our entire dorm to have hot pot. At the dinner table, he was very attentive to Zhou Xiaoxi, pulling out chairs, pouring water, peeling shrimp. Zhou Xiaoxi was touched, but also a bit embarrassed. She kept glancing at me, worried I might be upset, but I just kept my head down, busily indulging in the beef and tripe. When Jiang Chen and I were together, we were both poor students. I was reluctant to spend his money, and our dates were always inexpensive fast food, splitting the bill afterward. It wasn't often that Jiang Chen could treat. I had to eat more, maybe even make up for what I missed in a past life. I used to think sincerity could be reciprocated with sincerity, but now I know, human hearts can't be traded for loyalty. When we settled the bill for dinner, Jiang Chen paid over 500 yuan. Normally, that would have been half a month's living expenses for him. We might be well off in our later years, accustomed to spending freely, but it's hard to adjust all at once. I wonder what he'll do when he realizes how hard money is to come by now. Everyone thinks being reborn means you know the secret to wealth. But here we are, second-year college students, unable to scrounge up 1,000 yuan between us. I remember some stocks that multiplied in value, though, but in the short term, there really hasn't been much change. Buying a house seems even more unattainable. We barely have enough to cover meals. Where would the money for a house come from? Jiang Chen's family situation is pretty similar to mine. The only difference is that he's a boy and the eldest son, so his parents spend all their money on him. That's why he is in a better position than I am. I started spending every day at the library, diligently working on marketing plans. Pei Ning owns a small smart home appliance company, which at the moment only sells in major shopping malls. As an experienced e-commerce professional, I know that time is opportunity. The sooner you enter the market, the bigger the piece of the pie you can secure. In my previous life, when Jiang Chen and I ran a company together, I was in charge of operations and sales, and he handled after-sales service and factory coordination, so planning was second nature to me, and within a few days, I had prepared a detailed business plan. Did you do this? Pei Ning asked, relaxed, sitting back in his chair, flipping through my business plan page by page, staring at his handsome face. I couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. In my past life, although I had achieved some success through relentless effort, I was only slightly better off than the average person. But Pei Ning, he was the real tycoon. If I could gain his recognition and join forces with him, my achievements in this life could reach new heights. Not bad. Our team is already preparing to set up an e-commerce department. Come intern at my company when you're free from classes. Really? Thank you, senior. I clenched my fists, my eyes sparkling as I looked at Pei Ning. All the hard work recently had finally paid off. Hello, here are your cheesecake, vanilla milk, and strawberry waffle. This was the only coffee shop near our school gate. The prices were steep, and I had only been here once with Zhou Xiaoxi. I watched in astonishment as the waiter brought a table full of cakes. Pei Ning straightened the crease on his sleeve and stood up, saying, all right, I have to leave now. Little girl, eat up, you're too thin. Pei Ning left. Taking my carefully crafted business plan with him, I settled into the chair, slowly enjoying the cake. The cheesecake was very soft, with a rich creamy taste. So sweet. What did you say? Jiang Chen asked you for money? Dana stared at Zhou Xiaoxi in disbelief, and I was also surprised. After my initial shock, I somewhat understood. This behavior of Jiang Chen's was something I had indulged in the past. I worked hard at my jobs while he spent his time in the library after class. As a result, I ended up being more financially stable than him and often gave him money to help out. He was too proud to ask, so I just treated it as a loan. Jiang Chen and I were each other's first love, and we never got involved with anyone else after getting together. Perhaps Jiang Chen thought that borrowing money from a partner in such a close relationship was normal, like borrowing money from a good buddy. How much did he ask for? How could he bring himself to ask? How long have you two been together? Dana grabbed Zhou Xiaoxi's arm, her face filled with incredulity. It's not much, just 1,000 yuan. He said he invested his scholarship money in stocks. Jiang Chen had never dealt with stocks in college, if I remember correctly. It wasn't until we were in our 40s and more financially settled that he started exploring investment and personal finance. Does he really remember the stock market fluctuations from his college days? It's not a small amount. 1,000 yuan is nearly a month's living expenses? And you only think it's not much because you're well off. Zhou Xiaoxi was also somewhat upset. I definitely won't lend it to him. What kind of man asks a woman for money if he doesn't have money? He shouldn't be dating. Recently, he's been buying me this and that, and now he expects me to foot the bill, but he didn't receive the same warm welcome or opportunities. He was mainly assigned to handle menial tasks such as printing and copying documents. After all, Jiang Chen's expertise was in customer service, which, in the realm of e-commerce, isn't highly technical. I thrived in my internship, seamlessly fitting into the new environment. Pei Ning, the company head, was quite generous with the internship salary and even provided a scholarship, which meant I no longer needed to work part-time to pay for my tuition and living expenses. This allowed me to devote more time to my studies, leading to a busy yet fulfilling life. As for Jiang Chen, although he managed to secure the internship through his counselor's connections, he didn't have the same smooth experience as I did. Jiang Chen didn't visit often because he spent a lot of time dating. However, with his diligent efforts, he managed to reconcile with Zhou Xiaoxi. Jiang Chen treasured this relationship deeply, putting forth immense effort to maintain it. Dating was an activity that cost both money and time. He accompanied Zhou Xiaoxi on shopping trips, movie dates, and celebrated various occasions like birthdays, Christmas, and Valentine's Day. Money was spent like flowing water, and gradually, Jiang Chen began to feel the strain. He tried to take Zhou Xiaoxi to more affordable restaurants, but after just one visit, they ended up arguing. Can you believe how ridiculous Jiang Chen is? I spent 2 hours on makeup, washed my hair, and put on new clothes, only for him to take me to eat spicy hot pot. The place was so greasy, and just sitting there a while left a smell on my clothes and hair. He clearly doesn't respect me. Angrily, Zhou Xiaoxi threw her bag on the table, her eyes red with frustration. I was engrossed in my book when I heard this, and looked up confusedly. What's wrong with eating spicy hot pot on a date? Zhou Xiaoxi marched up to me and pinched my face. Are you silly? Him taking me to eat spicy hot pot shows that he values me as little as a bowl of spicy hot pot. Today it's spicy hot pot, tomorrow it'll be plain boiled water with steamed buns. Besides, if dating means only eating spicy hot pot, why bother dating? Isn't it better to be single? There's absolutely no way I'll lower my standard of living. Zhou Xiaoxi's views on relationships were vastly different from mine and quite jarring to my beliefs. In my mind, dating was about mutual contribution and sharing both good times and bad. What about people who are really poor? How do they manage to date? Zhou Xiaoxi rolled her eyes. If they're that poor, obviously they should focus on making money. Dating costs money and time, and if you can barely afford meals, how can you even think about dating? And if a man truly loves a girl, why would he want her to suffer with him? Seeing my bewildered face, Zhou Xiaoxi pulled up a chair to sit opposite me and began to lecture earnestly. Gu Qiao, don't be foolish. People say the 3 joys of a man's life are promotion, wealth, and the death of his wife. Why would his wife die when he becomes rich? Naturally, it's because he goes looking for someone younger and prettier. Do you think if you suffer with a man all your life, he'll be grateful? He'll only think he's amazing, that he has personal charm. Once he makes money, the first person he'll ditch is you. You've seen him at his worst, so he can't even brag in front of you. Isn't it true? After Jiang Chen became young again, the first thing he did was replace me, his long-suffering wife. I held Zhou Xiaoxi's hand. Keep talking, you're making sense. Back in our previous lives, although we were roommates, we seldom had time to chat. I was always working, rushing from one job to another with my backpack, hustling at the schoolgate's various shops. When my roommates were still sleeping, I had already left, and by the time I rushed back to the dorm at night, they were ready to sleep. Life continued at its own pace, with Zhou Xiaoxi and Jiang Chen frequently arguing. I, on the other hand, poured all my energy into studying and working. Summer came quickly, and I applied to stay in the dorm as usual. It had been 2 years since I last visited my parents' home, when I got married in my previous life. They demanded a dowry of 300,000 yuan from Jiang Chen, threatening to humiliate him in his village with a loudspeaker if he didn't comply. Although I ended up paying this money myself, my parents' actions made it difficult for me to face Jiang Chen. At that time, Jiang Chen gave me tremendous support. He said my parents were not good to me, but he would always treat me well and give me a true home. I had repaid my parents' kindness in my previous life. In this life, I owed no one. I worked tirelessly, even spending weekends at the company, almost wishing I could sleep there. My colleagues, especially our team leader, came one after another to give me advice. Joe, even though you're young, you need to take care of your health. Are you facing any difficulties in life? Don't worry, just talk to me. If money can solve it, then it's not a problem at all. I couldn't help but laugh and refuse, but this incident even alarmed Pei Ning. Here, take this bonus. I stared at the check for 300,000, dumbfounded. Boss, is the bonus really this much? Our company is full of young people and has a great atmosphere. Everyone calls Pei Ning a boss, and after a while, I started to call him that too without thinking. Pei Ning nodded. You're worth that much. At that time, houses in many prefecture-level cities cost only 3 to 4,000 per square meter. The bonus Pei Ning gave me was enough to buy a house. The head of the e-commerce department gets a commission on sales. From now on, whatever Old Sue gets, you will get too, I gasped. Old Sue is our team leader and a computer science graduate from a prestigious university, and I was just going to be a junior after the summer break. The key point was that this commission was really high. At least several million a year. I opened my mouth, wanting to refuse, but also reluctant to let go. Standing there torn, Pei Ning came over and gently patted the top of my head. I said, "You're worth that much." Dizzily walking out of the office, I felt like I had been hit by a pie falling from the sky. Is there a more generous boss than Pei Ning in this world? Definitely not. Hey, Gui Qiao, do you want to buy some cryptocurrencies to play around with? I was still lost in the dream of earning millions a year when my shoulder was tapped by our team leader. What kind of coin? Bitcoin? It just came out recently, and it seems pretty interesting. Bitcoin. The same Bitcoin that was a few cents each when it first came out and later rose to $140,000 each. So, I spent the entire 300,000 check on Bitcoin, ending up with 500,000 Bitcoins. Buying too much of this stuff was unnecessary, as it would be hard to sell in large quantities later on. With these 500,000 bitcoins, what else would I have to worry about in my life? Suddenly, I felt an endless surge of confidence. The future me was already a billionaire. What else was there to fear? Of course, I still needed to work. No matter how rich I might be in the future, I still need to eat and buy a house now. Brother, I finally found you, brother. I was seriously reviewing an operational report when suddenly a baby's cry broke out in the office. Jiang Taohua, what are you doing here? Jiang Chen stood up awkwardly, his face flushed red. Brother, something happened at home, brother. Everyone in the office stood up because Jiang Taohua was only 19 years old, and with her baby face, she looked more like a high school student at first glance. A high school student holding a baby was an odd sight no matter how you looked at it. Jiang Chen, who is this? Jiang Chen sternly took Jiang Taohua and headed outside. I remembered that something indeed happened in Jiang Chen's family a year ago. His father had broken his leg while working on a construction site, and it was quite serious. I even helped with some of the medical expenses at the time, but why did Jiang Taohua bring a child with her? Jiang Taohua was a traditional rural girl who dropped out of junior high to work and support her brother's education. After working for several years, she had an early marriage and started a family with a boy from the village. Her family received a dowry of 100,000 yuan from the groom's side, but her own dowry was only 3 quilts, making her life quite difficult after marriage. However, she was extremely proud of her brother who attended a prestigious university, always talking about him with great admiration. Jiang Chen's younger brother was still in middle school, and with their father's recent accident, the family was facing hard times. Sure enough, Jiang Chen soon came upstairs, looking dejected, and pulled me aside. Gu Qiao, could you lend me 100,000 yuan? I thought I was hearing things. What? Gu Qiao, he's the man you've called a dad for so many years? You can't just ignore this. Can you? Are you out of your mind? He's your dad. What does that have to do with me? Jiang Chen took a deep breath. Then, please, for old time's sake as classmates, lend me some money. I promise I'll pay you back. Get lost. Jiang Taohua had her hands full with marriage and children, and Jiang's mother had to take care of her youngest son and the elderly at home, so it fell on Jiang Chen to look after their father. He began dozing off frequently at work and his performance was a mess. After the summer break, the company revoked Jiang Chen's internship. Without that easy, high-paying job, Jiang Chen had to start juggling part-time jobs, which caused his grades to plummet. Finally, when everyone in his senior year was busy looking for jobs and internships, Zhou Xiaoxi broke up with him again. Zhou Xiaoxi, come out here. Jiang Chen, red-eyed, stood under the dormitory building, yelling for a long time. Dana and I stood by, helpless. Dana was furious, her chest heaving. Jiang Chen is crazy. Why keep harassing her after breaking up? How many days has he been at this? I looked at Jiang Chen with disdain. He had a second chance at life, yet he was messing it up. Poor performance at work, poor grades, and naturally, his love life was failing too. It seemed he thought having a second chance meant he had a magic touch, that the future was bright, but without effort, what future could there be? Just like studying. Someone who doesn't work hard couldn't enter a good university even if they repeated high school 10 times. Life is similar. Being reborn just meant understanding the trends of the times better, having a few more opportunities than others. But it didn't mean you could succeed effortlessly. Even if you wanted to make money through real estate, you still had to earn your initial capital. But Jiang Qin had always been laid back. Even in his past life it was me who had to push him forward, which often led to arguments. He liked fishing, painting, and drinking tea. He believed money was never ending and that life needed to be poetic and picturesque. As for me, I always wanted to reach higher and further. To see those vistas I'd never seen before. I'm so mad. Meeting Jiang Qin was really bad luck. Zhou Xiaoxi was so upset she couldn't even eat. You don't know how outrageous Jiang Qin is, always saying we'd get married right after graduation. And he talked about striving together to buy a house here and then moving his parents in. His sister was even scarier. She spent an entire meal talking to me about how I should bear several sons for their family and serve his parents well after we got married. Are they inheriting a throne or what? Talking about sons? Please, someone's personal circumstances might improve with effort, but family values are hard to change. I need to run fast or what? Wait to become their servant. I lowered my head in shame. Jiang Chen's family had said similar things to me before, and although it was uncomfortable, I hadn't taken it to heart at the time. After several entanglements, Jiang Chen found himself increasingly the subject of gossip among the girls, seeing that Zhou Xiaoxi still ignored him. He had no choice but to give up. After all, he now needed to earn his own tuition and living expenses. Besides attending classes, he was also busy working part-time. I am so glad that I didn't dive headfirst into the whirlpool of love like Jiang Chen did, neglecting everything else. Pei Ning kept his promise and gave me a bonus at the end of my senior year. I used that money to mortgage a few well-located properties, and my life began to stabilize. Zhou Xiaoxi remained a close friend of mine. She passed the civil service exam, and her family bought her a house in full, allowing her to live a comfortable and relaxed life. Many of our classmates also stayed in this city, and I ended up being the most successful among them. Later, I heard that Jiang Chen was still single, continually going on blind dates, however, without a house or car, and coming from a less affluent family. Not many girls with better prospects were interested in him. Zhou Xiaoxi got married to a high school classmate, a childhood sweetheart who was well-matched in social status. After attending the wedding, I encountered Jiang Chen at the hotel entrance. He looked somewhat haggard, his pale chin covered in stubble. Gu Qiao, are you laughing at me inside? I'm just trying to pursue my own love. What's wrong with that? I chuckled lightly. Jiang Chen, I used to think the same way in my past life. With that, I drove off in my 911 without looking back. Under the sunlight, Jiang Chen stood forlornly at the entrance, watching me leave, unable to move for a long time. End of the story. Jiang Chen's side story. 1. I ended up with Zhou Xiaoxi. Finally, I was with the woman I had longed for my whole life. I was thrilled, feeling as if I had been reborn by fate to rectify this regret. It's not that Gu Qiao was bad. There probably isn't a more virtuous and generous woman than her anywhere, but being with her was just too exhausting. When I first got into university, the village chief and others celebrated, sending me off with drums and gongs. Since childhood, I had been the pride of the village, but after being with Gu Qiao, she overshadowed me in everything. She was better than me in studies, in work, in everything. We started a company together, and whenever I went to the factory or discussed business, everyone would say how lucky I was to have such a great wife. They talked about how outstanding, hardworking, and capable Gu Qiao was. How ridiculous. As if I wasn't competent myself, it seemed like I was living off her success. I grew increasingly tired of Gu Qiao. Every day, she was like a whirlwind, managing the company, the kids, and me. She would urge me to handle business, push me to meet performance targets, and even openly criticize my department's failure to meet quarterly goals during company meetings. She was the same with our child, pushing for academic excellence, piano lessons, basketball. It was as if he was training for a decathlon. Being her son was truly miserable. A woman should be gentle, delicate, pure, and kind to be adorable, just like Zhou Xiaoxi, who could act coy, dress up, and sweetly call me brother. I would have given anything to see her happy smile. 2. We've been together for half a month now. I began to feel that something was off. Why doesn't Zhou Xiaoxi ever pay for anything? It wouldn't matter if I had money, but I'm just a student right now. Even though I just received a scholarship, that's my living expenses for the year. When I was with Gu Qiao before, we always split the bill. Gu Qiao always said that men and women are equal now. Girls also work, earn money, and attend university, so it shouldn't always be the boys who pay. I found her point very reasonable. It's the 21st century. After all, I don't mind paying a bit more. But Zhou Xiaoxi should at least contribute sometimes, right? Moreover, she spends so much. One day it's hot pot, the next it's Western food, and then Japanese cuisine the day after. She orders a table full of dishes, takes a few bites of each, and then says she's full. In the end, I reluctantly finish everything because I hate to see food go to waste. I've hinted a few times that Zhou Xiaoxi should pick up the tab, but she just plays dumb. I have no choice but to pay for it all myself. Soon, my money was all spent by Zhou Xiaoxi. When I asked her to lend me money, she even suggested breaking up. I'm sure Gu Qiao must have said something. I know she still loves me, but I've had enough of that life and don't want to rekindle anything with her. It's just terrifying how jealous a woman can be. Is it really impossible for a man to borrow money from a woman? I'm feeling confused. In my previous life, Gu Qiao used to give me money during my toughest times, patting her chest after and saying, "Don't be embarrassed, I'm lending this to you." Although I never had the chance to pay her back, once we became a family, it didn't seem necessary. I opened my phone to see Gu Qiao's photos, but it was filled with pictures of Zhou Xiaoxi. I miss Gu Qiao a bit. During our internship at the same company, seeing Gu Qiao so vibrant and energetic every day stirred a mix of complex emotions in me, even some resentment. She used to say how much she loved me, and now she seems to be living happily without me. I started to deliberately target Gu Qiao, making ambiguous and odd comments. From initially getting angry, Gu Qiao began to ignore me. I panicked. Indifference, not hate, is the opposite of love. Gu Qiao has started to disregard me. She gets along well with her colleagues, and many have even started introducing potential partners to her. As an intern, she became the team leader's favorite. Even Pei Ning couldn't help but take frequent glances at her, and for the first time, I realized that Gu Qiao is truly a remarkable person. Zhou Xiaoxi is too clingy, and it's starting to annoy me. Doesn't she have her own things to do? And every time she reaches out, it's basically to make me pay. I'm growing increasingly intolerant of her, and we've started to argue frequently. Finally, Zhou Xiaoxi and I broke up again, and this time, it seems beyond repair. I stood outside her dormitory building, calling her name every day, but I wasn't really clinging to her. It's just that I abandoned Gu Qiao to pursue Zhou Xiaoxi, and if I can't make it work with Zhou Xiaoxi, my life would be the biggest joke. For Zhou Xiaoxi, I gave up my studies, my internship, and Gu Qiao. I'm feeling lost, even though I supposedly had the advantage of a rebirth. Why does my current life seem worse than my previous one? All the money I invested in the stock market is gone. Those so-called future blue-chip stocks turned out to be disastrous investments for me. Keeping them might bring profits eventually, but that doesn't solve my immediate crisis. I've started working every day, devoting all my time to part-time jobs. Did Gu Qiao also struggle this much in her past life? Why was she able to maintain good grades while working? I find myself missing Gu Qiao more and more. I heard she got promoted, bought a house, and is now the most favored person around Pei Ning. My parents keep urging me to get married, and my colleagues occasionally try to set me up on blind dates. I don't want to get married or go on these blind dates. These girls, so full of themselves and utterly ordinary, have the audacity to judge me harshly. To them, being born in the countryside and having a sibling are flaws. It's laughable. They don't even come close to matching even a toe of Gu Qiao. What right do they have to look down on me? I've started to pour all my energy into my work, and I've gradually come to realize how much Gu Qiao from my past life really helped me. It turns out she didn't rely on me all her life. Instead, she protected me for a lifetime. I heard Zhou Xiaoxi is getting married, and I was thrilled. She must come if Zhou gets married, right? Sure enough, I saw Gu Qiao, dressed in a tailor-made suit, looking fresh and sharp, the epitome of a powerful woman. She was so dazzling, shining brighter than the sun hanging high in the sky. I didn't want to appear weak in front of her, so I casually started a topic. Gu Qiao said that in her past life, she too was wholeheartedly pursuing her love. I pretended to look at her nonchalantly, but my heart felt like it was being tightly squeezed, the pain making it hard to breathe. In the end, I lost my moon.